there's four things we want to do as quickly as possible at the opening every scene, but even more importantly, as quickly as you can at the beginning of the story. The first is, whose head am I in? Bam, we get that right out of the gate. We're in Methal's head. There is no doubt to our mind of that. The second is, where are we? And while this sounds weird because we're in darkness, we know where we're at. We're in darkness. Like, yeah. I have no idea what's around me. But I don't need to know what's around me because I can't see anything. So I am still 100% grounded in my surroundings, which is a black void. Like, that's what I'm in. Yeah. I'm comfortable with that. I'm set. My feet are under me. I know that sounds crazy that we're grounded in nothing, but we are 100% grounded in nothing.
But we're grounded in nothing, and that's fine. We understand we're in nothing. Yeah.
The third thing, why am I here? I'm waking up from a drunken stupor. Like, I get it. I don't know where I'm at. I don't know anything around me other than the fact that I can't see anything around me, which grounds me into that. But I also know why I'm here. I'm waking up from a drunken stupor. I went out partying last night. I'm too old for that stuff. I shouldn't have done it. I'm going to pay for it now. I know why I'm here, as in why me, the reader, am reading this moment.
Yeah.
And then the third or the fourth is, what is the cool thing that makes me want to keep reading? And the cool thing here is there's a voice that I think is a friend of mine, or at least an acquaintance of mine, that's accusing me of something, but it's not. It's God's voice, or, some spirit's voice, or some bigger thing, or whatever. And that's a cool factor that makes me go, okay, this is interesting. I want to keep reading. Whose head am I in? Where am I at? Why am I here? What's the cool thing that makes me keep reading? Those four things were all accomplished within, 20-ish words, because really you can cut that entire paragraph that we talked about, and all of those things are still there. So in about 20-ish lines, we have accomplished 100% of what needs to happen in the opening of every single scene. And you got me. I'm hooked.
Yeah.
I'm reading.
Yeah.
Releasing your inner dragon. All right, welcome to another episode of Live Editing with Releasing Your Inner Dragon. So while Marie pulls up today's victim, I'll go through the normal song and dance. This is always subjective. We're going to go through and give our opinions about what this author could do to improve their writing. It's subjective. Agree with it, disagree with it, doesn't matter to us. You do not have to follow anything we have to say. Your name goes on this, like, whatever. This is just what we feel. If you would like to have something live critiqued by us, just send it to us. The email address is down below, but it's releasingyourinnerdragon@gmail.com. Now, we do a couple of things, and we are looking at doing a first page read episode soon, and we don't have enough submissions for that yet. So if you would like to be a part of the first page read, send your first page of your manuscript and make sure you indicate that this is for first page reads, and we'll include it in that. We don't critique it in that. We do something different. We see when the industry would maybe reject it. But if you want to be critiqued, make sure you just let us know this is for the live critiquing, and then we'll put you in, this. Now, we do have now, after, this being our fifth year, we have a lot of submissions. So we cannot guarantee that we will get to yours, but we are doing everything we can. We're doing at least one of these a month. So we're trying to burn through them and get these done. But even if this isn't your piece, I promise you, you are 100% going to get something out of it. Also, if you're listening to us on a podcast, or on a podcast platform, we will do everything in our power to help you see this. But honestly, this is one of those episodes that you really should head on over to YouTube. While you're there, you should subscribe to us and like the episode and hit the notification bell, all those things that everyone tells you to do. But then you'll be able to see, because Maria is actually sharing her screen so that we can read this together, and you'll just get a lot more out of it, in my opinion, if you are viewing this on YouTube instead of one of the podcast platforms. So with all that out of the way, what are we doing today?
As per usual, I'm going to read. You can see my screen, yes?
Yes.
Ah, so I'm going to read from the ossified mind, and I see that it starts with a flavor text. So I'll read that and then we'll head into the text itself. Men begin life blind, in a darkened paradise tethered to eternity. All is provided, yet they are not satisfied. A foreign light beckons and promises more. Men leave paradise into the light. Their tether is cut. The men are alone. Their only comfort is the light's promise. The root of death, but the spark of growth. A promise to see their reflection. Mantra of the ossified.
So, first of all,
That is interesting.
that
Hmm?
opening couple of lines is fantastic,
Yeah.
except for where it says they are not satisfied. Yeah, no, you pushed us out. we didn't go, oh, look, there's a door. Let's go out and see what's out there. We were like, no, we don't want to go out there. We're fine. We want to
I
stay
would
here.
raise a counterpoint and say that your ass grows too big for your mama's belly.
Yeah, but that's only because she's so nurturing. She's so giving. I'm just saying, I didn't volunteer for this. I've been
But that is a
happy
really
staying
good,
there.
that is a really, really good opening line.
Oh, it
Well done.
is. That is fantastic. I really
Yeah,
like that. That is a
yeah.
that is a wonderful little flavor text. That sets, I mean, this does everything that I would like to see a flavor text do for me before I
Mm,
begin. It sets my mind. It gives me this flavor that I feel like that the story is going to deliver. I've got a lot of expectations now for where we're going to be, and that could be scary because this sets some really awesome expectations. So the story does then have to deliver upon those expectations. But this is fantastic. This is everything that I love to see in a flavor text.
yeah.
And, this has got me already hooked and I'm ready to dive in. But again, the bar is now set higher. So it's easier to disappoint someone when you set the bar higher.
Yep.
So just be
All
aware
right.
of that.
So I'll read the first few paragraphs and then we can talk about them.
Yes, ma'am.
Mathal, son of the hammer, you are lost in darkness, a strange voice announced from above. The words ended Mathal's induced dream. He felt a cold sweat as he rubbed his wrinkled brow. He drank too much strong water for his age, and this was the price. The last thing he remembered was casting lots with Bevino, the Kazumite. Now he was in complete darkness and silence. Bevino, this is ridiculous. I am your friend, Mathal rasped. Light a torch and we'll talk about paying the debt. Okay, so there's a couple of things I don't like, but there's a lot I actually do like. So, do you want to go first?
Um, so one is situational,
Mm,
but the other is, what I normally preach. One of the things I always say is no feel or felt in prose,
yep.
because it's just such a blatant tell, and we don't need it. Instead of he felt a cold sweat, we can just give us the cold sweat. A cold sweat.
Lingered on his fingers as he rubbed his
Right,
wrinkled brow.
exactly. Yeah, there's so many ways to do that.
Mm,
But the situational one is I've made the maybe mistake, maybe good thing of revisiting some of my childhood loves. And so I am rereading Elric of what I would call Melnibone, what the narrator of the audiobook calls Melnimene, which is really weird for me. But anyway, and I swear to God, I want to take the word now and remove it from the English language. I love this story as a child. I'm enjoying the story now, but like Michael wrote every single scene like now Elric sees the bad guy charge at him. Now the bad guy is swinging his sword. Now Elric is dodging that blow. Now Elric is attacking with his
And
own sword.
and
Now
sometimes to spice it up, he'll say, and then.
and then actually he does a lot of and now he's standing in a room and I'm just like, I can't stand the word now. Like it kills me. It's been so, it's used every single paragraph. And the worst thing about it is you would have to change nothing other than delete the word, and
Yeah.
nothing changes in the story.
There is very occasionally an argument to be made for using these words as rhythm words or as emphasis words. So, for example, he shot, he pulled the trigger, then again, then again, then
Right,
again, the chamber ran dry. Like, absolutely, that is hitting like bullets. It's repeating the
right.
action over and over. There's a
Or
rhythm.
even then again and again, or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah, that's a cadence thing. Those are
yeah.
beautiful.
The But for the most part, they're being used as time stage direction. And you don't need it because we know he's now in complete darkness and silence because we're here now.
Right,
So just
exactly.
give us the darkness and the
Yeah,
silence.
you don't have to say then, because I'm going to read that sentence next. So it's
Yeah,
happening next in my movie brain, or my brain movie.
yeah,
So you don't have to tell me it's going to happen then, because I'm not going to read your story out of order. I'm not going to skip around and read this sentence down here and then come
yeah,
up here to this one and go, oh, wait, what was the order? Oh, wait, good. He said then. So this happens obviously
yeah.
after. No, you don't need that. But in that same, so that's situational now actually hits me harder than it ever has before, because Michael Moorcock has taken a now bat and bludgeoned me with it for the last week, just brutally.
My my biggest one, the one that I truly hate, is began or started.
Yeah,
I
those
want
are,
to just I just want to just take the author and be like, I'm gonna stab you. Like, stop. Stop.
again, every, just like we talked about a second ago, I will use a began or a started, but I'll only use it if the action is being interrupted and I want to show the start of it. So like Drake started to turn, but Marie grabbed his arm.
Yeah,
So I want the reader to see me do a motion, but not finish the motion. And
yeah.
so I do like, a began or a whatever. But in that same sentence, 13, after the now, we have the was. And wases are always red flags that you are telling.
Mm,
And so this is the same thing as the felt. He felt. We don't need to say he felt. We can just feel the cold sweat, as Marie rewrote.
yeah.
The same thing here. We don't need to know he was in complete darkness. We could write something like,
So it's
you
very
know,
simple here. You can actually say complete darkness and silence oppressed him.
yeah,
What
or
was he
surrounded
doing
him,
here?
or he found himself immersed in darkness and silence, or whatever. I mean, there's a million ways to write it. We
Ooh,
don't need the
I,
was.
I will stab you for that found. I hate found as well.
No, I don't
There's
mind a
too many
found.
finds. I hate finds. Everybody finds themselves everywhere. Like they have no idea how they got here. Now this guy actually doesn't, so maybe it's the right word here. But
Yeah. I'm not as,
but yeah,
and that's the thing. That's the funny thing is every writer is sensitive to different words for different reasons.
yeah.
And me and Marie, if we have any differences, it's there are some words that she's like, ah, and I'm like, eh. And there are other things that I'm like, ah, and she's like, eh. So, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that. But yeah, I don't mind the found, like, especially in
But
this, like you said, he is waking up to where he doesn't know. I'm not as sensitive to
yeah,
the word found there. Not that it is the best word ever. So
yeah.
we're just
But
saying
what
that there's about
I
30,000 different ways you could rewrite this sentence and not have a telly was in it. That's
yeah.
all we're saying.
Now what I do like about this, yeah, these three paragraphs that we've read so far, is that there is a chunk of, even for darkness, there's a chunk of scene setting.
Yeah.
We don't know how we got here. We know something about the character. He's a bit of a drunkard. He's older, and he doesn't remember why he's here. Now we don't know how he feels about this, so I would like a little more interiority,
Right.
right? I would like a little bit more interiority, but so far, so good. Like I'm in on the story.
I have two other little edits. I
Mm,
didn't appreciate the echo of darkness on 9 and darkness on 13. They were just a little too close for me. And
yeah.
either one of those could be changed, like instead of complete darkness, it could be inky blackness. Like there's all sorts of different ways that we could do on both those. Yeah. 13, complete darkness. And then the other little edit is, well, two little edits. So on 15, Bavino, this is ridiculous, and I'm your friend are two different sentences. Those aren't
Yeah.
two clauses of the same sentence. So that would be a period there. And then Mathal rasped is a speech tag. So therefore, the last sentence would get a comma at the end of it, not a
Yeah.
period. So really, you don't have to buy a new comma or buy a new period. I know we're all on
You
budgets. You just flip them.
Yeah,
Just flip
just
them.
switch them around and you're
Yep.
good.
And you don't have to buy anything in today's economy.
Okay, so continuing onward. His lies echoed back in the silence. It was a relief from the lack of sensing. To Mathal, dullness represented the death of youth. A life of tranquility was reserved for men who lacked vigor. Mathal could afford the debt tenfold, but that wasn't the point. He could overpower that worm while his thugs stand idly by. I think that should be should. Um, sorry, that pulled me out of my reading. They
Yeah,
wouldn't
it's good.
dream, they wouldn't dare harm a man of prominence. Sure, Bevino was rich from his scum pits, but he was still a worm. A worm above the dirt deserves to be stepped on. Get me out of here and we'll talk, Mathal shouted. You have spent 5 decades in malicious ignorance, a strange voice echoed. You have lived a life of debauchery and beasthood. You enslaved your morals and sold them for an Icarzan's wage. Pleasure has entombed you in hypocrisy. That voice was not Bavino. Okay,
All right. You want to start this time?
sure. So I am enjoying this. I thought that the paragraph 18 to 22 was a little bit overwrought. It got a little long in the tooth for me in its
I
talliness.
felt the exact same way. I feel that this
Yeah,
is too info dumpy and it's
yeah,
information that I don't need right now. Um,
yes.
so the problem is, and this is where it comes to where one of my Drakeisms, the head book versus the paper book.
Mm,
This paragraph means a lot to the writer,
yes.
but I don't know enough of this world, this character, this situation, this stuff for this to mean anything to me.
Yeah.
So the writer writes this thinking, yeah, but I'm giving you this so that you'll have it later. What they don't realize is I won't remember it later. Since it doesn't impact me, it rolls off my back like water off a duck's back. And so I don't remember it. And so by the time I actually do learn whatever I need to know to make this information impactful, I won't, it won't, because it won't be in my memory anymore.
Mm,
So it's just information that is in the wrong location.
yeah.
And it
But I
gets a,
will say that the voices, the paragraph line 26 to 28
mhm.
got me back into like, oh, I'm interested.
Yeah. And I don't need to know. I don't need to
Yeah,
know, a life of debauchery and beasthood. I don't need to know what an Ikazaran's wage is or anything like that. I
yeah,
know that it's being said through context. I know it's being said as a derogatory statement. And so
mm,
therefore that's all I need. It's a derogatory thing. It's a you've done this bad thing and now you're going to suffer for it. And so that's all I need. It's
yeah.
amazing how little a reader actually needs to to be fulfilled with the story.
I think actually you could probably cut everything from to Mathol, dullness represented the death of youth, and this paragraph would still have the same impact.
Yes, it 100% it would.
Yeah. So I'm gonna just put
This
another
this is
comment
a
there
good
and say,
example, and one of our peanut galleries will appreciate this. Although he was in the discussion, this wasn't. It was somebody else last night that this pertained to exactly. But this is where I would say is a navel gazing paragraph
yeah,
where we're not actually getting anything out of it. We're just kind of staring at the lint in our navel, waiting for the words to be done so that we can then move on to something that we actually can grab onto and actually have purchase within ourselves as we consume this story.
Yeah. But yeah,
So
so and then you've got then just a couple of, like, that stand I think should be stood.
yep, there's another echo. So we had silence up on 15, I think it was, but there's one on 18. Yeah, so 13, sorry, I wasn't on my screen, so I couldn't remember the line number. So we have silence on 13 and then silence on 18, as a little echo there. If we're keeping this paragraph, we do need to talk about the two Mathals, 18 and 19, because the first Mathal sets the paragraph as his. Now, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to go ahead and instead of his, I'd put the Mathal first. Mathal's lies echoed back in the silence. If I'm going to use Mathal at all, Mathal was the last person that spoke. Mathal is the only character in the scene other than this disembodied voice. So technically, you would not have a problem with to his dullness, and he could
Yeah.
afford. You literally don't even have to use Mathal at all because the
The
Mathal
only
on 15 sets it.
Yeah, the only time you have to change it is after you've said Bavino on line 21.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why on 24 we need Mathal shouted.
Mm.
But that's
I will
really
just
all
also say one thing. I'm deeply appreciative of the fact that the author put a comma and Mathal shouted, and not an exclamation mark and Mathal shouted. Because if you have an exclamation mark and you have shouted, you're giving me the same information twice.
100%. Although I popped that because I would rather put an exclamation point after talk, get rid of Mathal shouted, and give me what he is feeling in this moment. Is he
Yeah,
annoyed? Is he whatever? So let the exclamation point do the job of the shouted, and then do something else with that
agreed.
narration line. So, but that was a little bit further down. On 21, sure is a parenthetical, so it needs a comma after sure, Bavino. And then the last nitpicky thing for me is on 26. So the first strange voice should be a strange voice, but now the
This
strange
one should
voice
be that.
exists. And so it should be the strange voice.
Yeah.
So yes, the first time we did it up at the top, when the voice first came in, on 9, it should
Yeah.
be a strange voice because it doesn't exist. And so we're now bringing it into the scene.
Mm.
But now the strange voice is there. And
Yeah.
so if we say a, the human brain has a hard time going, wait a minute, is it the same one that I just heard?
Mm.
So, and if it isn't the same, I wouldn't do a, I would do a different strange voice or whatever. And actually, I probably wouldn't do strange voice because I've already named that first one strange voice. So that's the only other like little minor edit thing that I would throw into this one because you've said it. So use the.
Yeah. But yeah, so far I'm interested. I'm not connecting with Mathal, but the plot's very interesting.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
situation, not
The
necessarily the plot, but the
situation's interesting.
situation.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So, we talk about there's 4 things we want to do as quickly as possible at the opening every scene, but even more importantly, as quickly as you can at the beginning of the story. The first is whose head am I in? Bam, we get that right out of the gate. We're in Mathal's head. There is no doubt to our mind of that. The second is where are we? And while this sounds weird because we're in darkness, we know where we're at. We're in darkness. Like I
Yeah.
have no idea what's around me. But I don't need to know what's around me because I can't see anything. So I am still 100% grounded in my surroundings, which is a black void. Like that's what I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with that. I'm set. My feet are under me. I know that sounds crazy that we're grounded in nothing, but we are 100% grounded in nothing.
But we're
Uh,
grounded in nothing, and that's fine. We
right.
understand we're in nothing. Yeah.
The third thing, why am I here? I'm waking up from a drunken stupor. Like, I get it. I don't know where I'm at. I don't know anything around me other than the fact that I can't see anything around me, which grounds me into that. But I also know why I'm here. I'm waking up from a drunken stupor. I went out partying last night. I'm too old for that stuff. I shouldn't have done it. I'm going to pay for it now. I know why I'm here, as in why me, the reader, am reading this moment.
Yeah.
And then the third or the fourth is, what is the cool thing that makes me want to keep reading? And the cool thing here is there's a voice that I think is a friend of mine, or at least an acquaintance of mine, that's accusing me of something, but it's not. It's
Yeah.
some God's voice, or, you know, some spirit's voice, or some bigger thing, or whatever. And that's a cool factor that makes me go, okay, this is interesting. I want to keep
Yeah.
reading. Whose head am I in? Where am I at? Why am I here? What's the cool thing that makes me keep reading? Those four things were all accomplished within, 20-ish words, because really you can cut that entire paragraph that we talked about and all of those things are still there. So in about 20-ish lines, we have accomplished 100% of what needs to happen in the opening of every single scene. And you got me. I'm hooked.
Yeah.
I'm reading.
Yeah. I'm interested.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, um, don't lecture me, scum. Ransom me and be done with it, Mathal shouted. What's the market rate these days? 30 course hides? Ask my brother for 300. Try to spend it all before we hang you as a banner. Do you know who I... Silence, the strange voice interrupted with a note of anger. You will not return to blindness. There will be no ransom. For the first time in decades, Mathal felt fear. It was a feeling he long missed. Okay, so just a small dialogue punctuation mark that I fixed over there in line 32. So do you want to go with these three paragraphs?
Yeah, because there's plenty to talk about here. So yeah, again, the same thing. When you have those, first of all, you have an echo of Mathal shouted, Mathal shouted. We don't want to use the same body language over and over
Hmm.
and over again. So do something else. Also, when you have these little Mathal nodded, Mathal shrugged, Mathal grinned, Mathal, you know, stood, Mathal shouted, Mathal rasped, these don't do anything.
Hmm.
Like, I'm not saying cut them. I'm saying add to them, if nothing else. They don't. You're missing opportunities for what is Mathal feeling. What is what is the, because even though I'm grounded in nothingness, the floor still feels like something. There's all sorts of things that we can do with that. That is just such a waste when we do these little nodded, walked, looked, glanced, smiled, shrugged. They're just terrible movements that don't do anything for you. Did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, I was about to say like two things. One, you can build extra scene here with like having him interact with the scene, which is what you're talking about, like feeling the ground underneath him. Or you can give us deeper interiority into
Mm-hmm.
the character. Like he knows the voice is not Bavino. So who is he shout? Who does he think it is? Does he think it might be an enemy? Does he, give us some of his internals here is also a good way to replace the shouted.
Yeah. And then I've got two more things. One is just a simple thing that we've already kind of discussed. But 39, we have the word felt again. So one of the
Yes.
worst tells, there's the reason why I have the rule of never use that word in narration. You can use it in dialogue, but never in narration, unless they are physically feeling something like he felt across the ground.
Yeah.
That's different. But like this, for the first time in decades, fear clawed at Methal's throat. Like it's so
Yeah.
much more visceral. It's so much more showy. It just the felt fear is so blasé and blah and just not good. However, I do want to talk about something deeper. I didn't appreciate the shift in Mathal. We're painting a guy who has a hangover, who is so dazed that he doesn't really know that the voice that he's hearing is not his associates, whatever. And all of a sudden, he's got all this vigor and all this anger and all this, like, don't lecture me, scum. That was too abrupt, in my opinion. I felt
Mm.
like that's not the character that I have now painted in my mind. He doesn't just instantly jump up with this kind of bravado and this kind of strength and this kind of whatever. And the funny thing is you could do this without even changing a single word, and you do have the period there instead of the exclamation mark. Maybe I do something like, don't lecture me, scum. Ransom me and be done with it. Even as the words left Methal's lips, or even though the words left Methal's lips in something just above a whisper, his head throbbed with the loudness of it. He groaned and rolled over. What's the market rate these days? 30 course hides. He tried to clear his, he tried to get some saliva in his dry mouth. Asked my brother for 300. Like you could say, literally, you could say the exact same words, but do
Yeah.
it in a way that now matches the image of the character that you forced me to paint. A guy that's in pain, that's groggy, that's hungover, that's struggling with just the physical side of life. But again, that's why the Mythal shouted does nothing.
Yeah.
And it's not even the words that he says. It's that because we don't have any of that, it now makes me feel like he's a completely different character.
Yeah, he's too intense because you're not giving us enough interiority. So more
Yeah.
interiority in that moment, more how he's shouting, how he's feeling, how he's going through it.
Yeah, and we've all seen this scene. The
Yeah.
guy that is a prisoner of the bad guys, and the bad guys are beating the crap out of him, and he still says like, what do you got to say for yourself? And he's like, is that the best you can do? Because I've seen so much worse. Like,
Yeah.
but he's still beaten and bleeding and in pain, and like he's struggling to say his little insult to him. So
Yeah.
that's a tonal shift that just rubbed me out of the story, because now I'm not seeing what I thought I was seeing. Now
Right.
everything has changed. And so,
Yeah.
you just want to make
It
sure
was,
that go
yeah,
ahead.
you want to make your transition smooth,
Yeah.
effective. I will say I did appreciate this little line here. It was a feeling he long missed. I
Yeah.
thought that was a very nice little like juxtaposition.
Yeah.
And
And
I
even though that's
think
a
it is
tell,
I think it is stronger if you cut everything over here that we said you should cut.
yeah.
Because here you try and like paint the way of like how he's, addicted to adrenaline. But if you cut all of that, this line gives us the same information, but it gives it to us with punch.
And even though it's a tell, if it was followed by something very visceral, it's
Mm.
not about never telling. It's about telling when it actually has impact. And this is one of those lines that I feel would have impact as a tell, especially if it followed something more visceral than felt fear.
I also feel like it is one of those telling lines that isn't just telling, it's also reflecting.
Yes.
It's it's reflecting on the character's state of being. And that I feel has impact. So I like that line. That was a great line.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Are you a
And yes,
Kapite?
for
Hmm?
those keeping score at home, yes, we both just complimented a telly line.
When it works, it works.
Exactly.
Are you a Kapite? Show yourself, coward, Mathal barked. Kill me, and there will be retribution. Your streets will be stained red. Do you hear me, Kapite? I belong to no clan or false god. I am Kalamos, a lopsided fool. A beam of light appeared from above and pierced Mathal's eyes. Despite the pain, he refused to blink. This was the practice of his clan. His pupils tightened upon the grim reality. He was trapped inside a hollow pyramid. Fired brick cascaded upward from the height to the height of 4 men. At the precipice was an open hole, yet there was no way to reach it. Since the day you were born, I have worn a veil over your eyes, Kalamos echoed. I offer to destroy the veil. I offer to show you the truth. A rope ladder unfurled from the opening. You may refuse my offer and stay in darkness. Sustenance will be provided for you. Okay, so I just want to pause here because I want to say a few things. Um, He does not echo. He's not echoing anything here. This should be said. If you're going to stick with just a tag, if it's neutral, if the purpose is to indicate neutrality, this should just be said. Echo paints the wrong picture. The second one is this would all work better as one paragraph. And I don't say that often, but like this, like that, would make it all flow as one thing that Colamos is doing and saying.
Right.
In
Yeah.
my
The
opinion.
rope. So the rules of paragraph structure are a paragraph should be one entity's one moment of time. And it should be for the most part. And you could say, well, the rope ladder is a different entity and it's doing something during its moment of time. Sure. But we can assume that this dude is lowering it or somebody with this dude is lowering it. So having it all as a part of the same paragraph just makes it read smoother and joins everything together and it just doesn't need to be its own paragraph. It doesn't have the gravitas to be a short one sentence paragraph by itself.
Yeah. It doesn't have that kind of weight to it. It would only have that kind of weight if we were really afraid of being stuck in this hole. Like, I don't know if you've ever been in a castle. Have you ever been in an actual castle?
I mean, yeah.
Did it have an oubliette?
Tell me what an oubliette is, and I'll tell you if it had one.
It's a hole where our glorious ancestors put prisoners and then locked
Oh,
it from
yes.
the top.
Yes.
So the first time I looked down an oubliette, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I can think of worse ways to die. I can. But that's horrifying.
Yeah.
So if you'd been stuck there for days and suddenly a rope ladder unfurls, that would justify it having its own paragraph.
Right.
But we've been here for like 5 minutes and we're angry. So,
Yeah.
we're not at the stage where a rope ladder is like, oh.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but also, like I said, there is a argument to be made that this dude, I'm not even going to try to say his name, is the one who's done this. So it's a part of his actions anyway.
Yeah,
Or he's
exactly.
directed it to happen. So it's a part of his actions anyway.
So I would really like some interiority here.
Yeah, there's almost none. And a
It,
lot of this comes from the fact that this writer, the deeper we get into this, the more I see them just using your little 2-word, 3-word narrative tags to show who is speaking. So, 41, we have Mathal barked. Down on 59, we have yet again another Mathal shouted. This one, including the exclamation point. We have the voice dude echoed, which is the wrong tag, so said whatever. These things just don't do anything for your story. They do
so
nothing.
I'm gonna say this. I'm sure I've said it before, but I'm gonna say it again. A speech tag is not a replacement for providing interiority.
Right.
How something is said does not replace communicating what the character is feeling. You can shout for any number of reasons. You can shout because you're afraid. You can shout because you're angry. You can
shout because you're happy.
Because you're happy. Like, it tells me nothing. Barking, what does that mean? Barking like a dog? Barking like a sergeant? Barking, you know, it's these things don't do what you think they do. And the problem is, like, this, what this author's doing is they're not using any saids, right? Probably because they've been told to reduce their speech tags. So
Yeah.
because I've seen this before as well. And then they'll replace the said and asked with with every possible speech tag in the English language that isn't
Other
said
than
and
said.
asked. And it actually is more disruptive
Yeah,
because said and asked kind of vanish for the reader, but these strange speech tags stand out. So
especially echoed.
yeah, so I would only use these strange speech tags if they actually add something.
Yeah.
Like they must really add something to the way it's being said before I'll consider using them. Otherwise, I would rather give real interiority attached to a said or
Yeah.
completely without the said.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I'm one of the few published authors that uses no speech tags ever, not a single one, which I
Yeah.
don't agree with that you should do. I just planted my flag in that and stupidly, stubbornly, I'm sticking with it. You every once in a while should use a said because it's just the right word to use. You should never have absolute rules in your creative writing, which I've given myself the
S-
absolute rule of never using a speech tag, which is dumb, but I'll
Sometimes I
own that
use
dumbness.
sometimes I use said literally as a rhythm.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
use it
There's a
for a
lot of reasons why I
rhythmic
would love
reason.
to break my
Yeah.
own rule. I
Yeah.
just don't because I'm a pig-headed, stubborn fool. So, and it's not just. I want to go into this a little bit more. It's not just my speech tag. So, yes, instead of saying Mathal barked, we could do interiority there, and say instead of saying Mathal shouted, we could do interiority there. But it is so much more than that because also I would like to know how I feel about the other guy saying what he said. We can't head hop. We're not in the other guy's head, so we can't give interiority from them. Sort of. We can. It just has to be body language.
Hmm.
It has to be body language that gives us the understanding of what they're feeling on the inside because we can only write what they do and what they say as hints on what's going on. But I mean, if we go through here, are you a cupite? Okay, but how do I feel about the fact that he might be a cupite? Am I repulsed? Am I happy? Am I amused? Am I disgusted? Like, show yourself coward. Okay, how do I feel about the fact that I feel this guy is a coward and they're not showing themselves? Kill me and there will be retribution. Great. How does that make me feel? Like, am I lying? Am I like, please don't kill me? I'm just going to act like this? Or am I truly like, I don't care if I die because you'll suffer 10 times more? And I'm not saying
Hmm.
do every single one of these. I'm just going through this
Yeah.
to show you
Just
because everyone's like, well, I don't understand interiority. Your streets will be stained in red. Do you hear me, Cupite? Great. But what am I feeling when I'm saying that? I belong to no clan or false god. Okay. How does that make me feel? I am so and so, a lopsided fool. And that's a weird turn of phrase. So, what does that turn of phrase make me feel? The beam of light pierces my eyes. How does that make me feel? I actually refuse to blink because I feel this way about that.
yeah.
This is a practice of his clan because I have this type of love or hate or feeling for my clan. My pupil titan. Okay. That's some
This
interiority as far as a
whole
physical thing.
this whole paragraph needs interiority.
Yeah.
It's a great place to put a lot of interiority.
My point is I can go through almost every single sentence that's written on this
Mm.
page. And every single sentence has the opportunity
Yeah.
to give the reader interiority.
Now you
So,
don't want to overwhelm the reader. You don't want to actually put a line of
no,
interiority on each sentence.
no,
But pick one and add some more interiority here.
or a few.
Or a few. Yeah. At least one, but a few would be.
I just wanted to go through that because, we say this all the time. This needs
Mm.
interiority. And they're like, I just don't see how. And it's like every sentence, that's how every sentence is an opportunity for it. It's there. It's all there.
This this was the practice of his clan, and he would not fail his honor.
Right.
You know? So there was a question in the peanut gallery, and if you want to, join the peanut gallery, you can sign up for the writers' room free area and be part of our recordings. But there was a question in the peanut gallery that says, give an example of an unusual speech tag used well. So a good example would be, the emperor rose to his feet and approached the gallery. He declaimed the words, or my people, he declaimed. Lend me your ears. So declaimed works in this context because it is literally explaining how he says this in a very short, succinct way. He is speaking as an orator, and it creates the sense of him declaiming, of him orating, of him pushing his voice out big. So that would be an example of a weird speech tag used well.
And I'm glad you took that because I don't use speech tags, so I don't have a good example.
Yeah. So they can add value. Weird speech tags can add value, but they should be used sparingly and they should be used where it really works. Either they are correct for the thing that is doing, and they describe how it's said in a very short, succinct way, or they are incorrect, and in their juxtaposition they create a different feeling. So that's normally my rule about weird speech tags. All right.
Yeah.
So, continuing onward, Mythol knew firsthand that it was unwise to climb a ladder without knowing the destination. He was a veteran of many sieges in the Sea of Stone. Still, no part of him wished to remain imprisoned. He would face Kalamos. How does he feel about that? I accept, Mythol shouted. He stepped onto the ladder without hesitation. Immediately it shot to the top, as if Mythol weighed nothing. His knees smashed against the roof as he entered the light. The pain kept him on the ground. Before he could orient himself, a cold metal hand forced his head down into a muddy floor. As he writhed to escape, more hands grabbed various limbs. They held him down until he stopped struggling. Abandon any hope of return, Kalamos said from above. You are alone in a new world. You are doomed to sink into chaos. The hands hoisted Mythol to a kneeling position. He could now see the hopelessness of his condition. A horde of men wearing wooden masks stood before him. Each mask was intricately carved and shaped to represent an animal, all except one. Mythol instantly knew that it belonged to Kalamos. It was made of rotten wood fashioned into a skull shape. A black veil sat beneath it, hiding his face. The mask was not what struck Mythol. The man stood 2 hands above the others. He hunched over the left hand and leaned on a large rotting cane. The monstrous figure was wearing a cloak composed of tattered fabric, rotting leaves, and various other plants. Bark and wood chunks surrounded his limbs, forming a sort of armor. Beneath it were layers of shredded black robes. All of the man's skin, all of the man's skin was hidden beneath the rotting apparel. Okay.
All right. So your sanguil just sneaked in there. 75, it says he hunched over to the left and leaned on a large rotting cane, but you read he hunched over the left hand and leaned on
Left should always be followed by hand. That's just
right.
the way it
That's
is.
right. That's what I'm saying. Your sanguil kind of sneaked in there. So for those that haven't read her Sanguil Chronicles, she has a left hand god and a right hand god, and so that's where the left hand came from, because pretty much when she reads the word left, it's got to be followed by the word hand.
It goes with hand.
That's right. All right. So I've got a ton of problems with the paragraph from 61 to 65.
Yeah.
It threw me out constantly with things that I can't paint in my head.
Mm,
So, like, first of all, a lot of ly adverbs. There's three reasons why I talk about you should never use ly adverbs in these three instances. Not that you should never use ly adverbs, but there are three ways that they are just dumb to use. This one, on 61, immediately it shot to the top. There's no difference in that in my movie brain, or my brain movie, than if it just said it shot to the top. They're both happening immediately. So the immediately does nothing. So one of the ways that I talk about not using ly adverbs is when they don't add anything to the story. But then I was immediately thrown out with his knees smashed against the roof. like I don't know how to paint that. There's a hole that the ladder came through. He's being sucked through the hole, but somehow his knees land on the roof. I don't know what I don't, I'm lost. And then, but that pain, even though he's hitting the roof, that pain keeps him on the ground. I'm just completely disconnected with this, what I'm trying
So
to
I
do.
think I think what the author is doing is he's going through the hole, and then he says it's this. Then he describes it as the like he's being, he's smashed against the roof as he's stuck through the hole, and then he's dumped on the ground somehow. But there's not enough painting of the scene here. It's
Or
too lightly
or is
sketched.
or is he saying, which is where I was trying to go
Yeah.
with, is that his knees smashed on the roof of the hole he was in, which
Mm.
means the floor of where they're standing on.
Yeah.
But that's still, it's very, very disconnected for me to actually kind of
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I was
kind
like,
of
what is
paint
going
that
on here?
picture. And then the next thing that threw me completely out was line 64. As he writhed to escape, more hands grabbed various limbs. And that makes you go,
I
wait,
was like,
does he have like 8
what?
legs and 5 arms? Like what does Matha look like now? Like if he has various limbs, and we also have an echo because we use various again down on 76, which I'll talk about. So we do have a various echo in there. But yeah, various limbs threw me out. Like, how about they grab his limbs because they're just his limbs?
Yeah.
They're so various was weird to me. And again, yes, we could add interiority there. How does this make me feel? So that paragraph was rough for me. I was
I also didn't like before he could orient himself. Because I know lots of people write like that. I get it. I
yeah.
do. And I don't blame people for writing. I don't say you've got to cut all of them. But I hate that kind of writing where it's like
I'm
he was busy orientating himself, but before he could finish, blah happened. Like it feels so
right.
bleh.
And I agree with that. It is a blah line. It just doesn't, I'm not as sensitive to it. What I am sensitive to is the same thing you're talking about, but to me more egregious, which is down on 70. He could now see the hopelessness of his condition. That I'm going to tell you, yeah, it's got the now in there. I'm going to tell you that he can see the hopelessness of the situation, and then I'm going to show you the hopelessness of the situation. So you're
Yes.
telling and then showing the
And then
exact
showing.
same thing. So if you were to cut this line, just for the audience at home, if we cut this line and read this again, notice that you lose nothing. The hands hoisted Mathal to a kneeling position. A horde of men wearing wooden masks stood before him. Each mask was intricately carved and shaped to represent an animal, all except one. Like, we already understand that this is a hopeless situation for him. There's no way out. He's pinned to the ground. And now there's these weird masked people that are holding him down. That he could now see the hopelessness of his condition is just a crappy tell that doesn't add anything to the story, since you then literally moved into showing me what that
Yeah.
means.
And the same pattern repeats with the mask was not what struck Mattel. Like, don't tell me what didn't. Like the mask was overshadowed by the fact that the man was 2 feet higher than the others.
Yeah,
This is just, it's just filtering. It's just, yeah.
agreed. And then I said I was gonna talk about the other various down on 76. I see this all the time where the monstrous figure was wearing a cloak composed of specific, and then just generic. I'm tired of describing stuff like that.
Where?
If you're given right there 76, so tattered fabric, rotting leaves, and whatever. Um,
Various other plants.
right? Like if you're gonna give me 2 specifics, just finish it. Give me 3. I don't I don't need, I don't. So think about what you're doing to the person's brain movie. The cloak was tattered fabric. Okay, I paint that. Rotting leaves. Okay, I paint that. And then just other stuff make it up. And I'm like, but you were painting a cloak. You were giving me the cloak. Now I have to do the job for you. I got to finish the job that you started. Like, just finish it.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, yeah, various is just, it's just a weak word.
Yeah.
Especially when you then go bark and wood chunks surrounded his limbs.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like you're giving us the layers. It's you can just,
Yeah.
yeah.
You don't need to go vague in the middle of description.
Yeah. The Peanut Gallery asked for a suggestion on interiority. My current best suggestion is Donald Mars's The Emotional Craft of Fiction.
And I'll throw in the emotional thesaurus.
Yeah. So the emotional thesaurus is really good at helping you show emotion and tell emotion and so on. But Donald Mars's book is really good at explaining why you need interiority and 3 ways of doing it. And he takes you through some examples.
Yes.
So I found him to be I found it to be a very insightful book. Um, so yeah. Um, so I'm I like the setup. I like the situation Mathol's woken up in. I'm liking the kind of world building around here. But I'm now at the point where if I don't get interiority soon, I'm closing the book.
Yeah.
I need to know how Mathol feels about this stuff. I
So that
need to
I know how to
understand,
connect to him.
yeah, I need to understand his emotional state. And the few lines that we've had, like him feeling fear and then it was a feeling he long missed, are like little droplets in the desert. They're
Yeah.
not enough to sustain me. So I need more here. This description, both of these paragraphs are crying for interiority.
Yeah. Yeah. Because even though the writer pulled off the 4 things that you need to pull off at the very beginning, you also have to make me care about the character. You have to make me care about what the character cares about. You have to make me care about what the character fears, what they love, what they hate, what their motivation
Mm.
is, what their goals are. And that is only done through interiority. And so
Yeah,
without interiority, we don't, we just
you're
never
not going to
connect.
hook me. You need the interiority to hook me.
Yeah.
That would be my biggest advice to this author. You've got a lot of great stuff going on in these 2 pages, a lot of really, really solid stuff, but you need that interiority.
Now, I
Um,
get that there is a breed of authors out there that also teach this stuff that actually are preaching a methodology of you can't write what a camera can't see. I just vehemently disagree with that.
I understand that this is a subjective field. Those people are objectively wrong.
Yeah, objectively. In our subjective opinion, they
Yeah,
are objectively wrong.
they're objectively wrong.
And I object to their opinions.
Yes.
Um, it just I was just hired to write 3 movie scripts. When
Yeah.
you're a script writer, you do not get interiority. You don't have access to it. The audience will never have access to it unless you do some horrible, crappy voiceover, which just doesn't work unless it is the plot device that's driving the story. In prose, the reader gets that. They're inside that narrating character. It is a different medium. Those people are 100% correct in their statement if they were talking to script writers. But as a prose writer, it is just wrong. I had a person last week brought something and there was no interiority in it. And this was in the writer's room. And he was like, well, I don't want readers to feel like they're navel gazing, which is what, that's that term. And so I pulled up 2 scenes, each were a couple thousand words long, that took place almost entirely inside the character's head. Like the whole scene is just navel gazing, if you want to call it that. And when I got done, and he was also, his other concern was making the readers feel talked down to, like giving them too much so that they feel baby. And so I got done and I was like, okay, so I just read you like 4,000 words of navel gazing. Do you feel like you were navel gazing? He's like, no, that was awesome. And I'm like, do you feel like I was talking down to you? And he's like, no, not at all. I was like, do you feel like I was being redundant in anything I said? And like, no, everything was new information. I'm like, yeah. And yet these are two scenes that live exclusively in interiority. Like there's almost no exteriority in those two scenes. Prose is not scripts. It is a completely different medium. And so if
Yep.
you subscribe to the philosophy that you can't write anything a camera can't see, then you're always going to have a story that feels hollow to a reader. It just is the way it is. I've got a group of friends that are published authors, and they subscribe to that philosophy, and I can't read them because I get
Yeah.
2 or 3 chapters in, I just don't care. I don't care. And so I put the book down every time. I've never
Mm.
finished a single one of their books, even though I own, they're friends of mine. So, you know,
And I just want to say that clearly this reader does not subscribe, this writer does not subscribe to it because he does have interiority. It's
right,
just not enough.
right.
Okay. So let me continue because we are almost at the end, and that is a near miracle for us. So well done to you, the author. Harden your mind and prepare, Calamos said without a twitch of movement. A man wearing a frog-shaped mask advanced to the front of the horde. There was a familiarness to his gait. He was carrying a severed head. Multiple mushrooms were growing out of the top of it. They were a blood-colored translucent with dark veins running up the stem and spreading into the cap. The head appeared to have been rotting for weeks, and yet it was still recognizable. It was Bavino. Mathol realized he was asleep far longer than just one night. Be strong, old friend, the familiar man croaked as he plucked out a mushroom. It bled and writhed in his hand. You, Mathol shouted. He was too enraged by the betrayal to say more. The horde grabbed Mathol's head and held his jaw open. The familiar man placed the mushroom into it. Blood dripped down Mathol's face as the horde forced his jaw shut. The slick, warm mushroom pulsated in his mouth. He was thankful that decades of serpent burning destroyed his taste. He had no choice but to swallow it. He could feel it twitches down his throat. The root of death, but the spark of growth, Kalamos said. A promise to see their reflection, the horde replied in unison. Okay.
So, first of all, someone the peanut gallery asked, so the actors give the interiority through their actions and facial expressions. So, yes, they basically in a script, every single character is a secondary or tertiary character compared to what we get in prose.
Yeah.
In prose, we are in the head when we're writing in limited, so third person limited, free discourse, or first person. We are in the head of the narrating character. So therefore, we get access to their interiority. We are not in the head of any other character in the entire novel, which means we only get to know what they're thinking and what they're feeling based off of their actions and their words. And people can lie with their actions and they can lie with their words. So we never really know if it's the truth. But in film, that is all you get. You get everyone's actions and words and nothing else.
With some very few exceptions, like the one Dune movie where they did interior thoughts, the
But like I said,
Murderbot
if you have a
Diary.
plot device,
Yeah,
if you have a plot device where the interiority drives the story like that, then 100%. And it's great.
yeah.
That's why I think with the new Dune movies, I think they made a mistake in not doing the interiority because I think that
Mm,
it weakened. They were okay. They were fine movies. I didn't have a problem
mm,
with them, but I think they could have been enhanced by adding the interiority. I think it was a good plot device
mm.
that they used in all of the other renditions of it.
The Murderbot Diary, which is coming on Apple TV that I'm looking forward to, seems to use the Murderbots direct. interior thoughts, which is great
Mhm.
as well. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah,
But
for the most part.
it has to be a plot device that works. Man of War with Nicolas Cage, the voiceover in that is one of the worst examples of trying to use a voiceover to help drive the story. It was awfully done, just garbage. But in a prose, when you're in limited, you are in that narrator, so you can get that. So I've got a lot of examples, but this is the most telling that this story has gotten for me.
Yes.
Lots of was carrying, were growing, appeared to be, realized. There's another feel in here. He realized he was asleep. Like it just became almost every line of this was tell.
And this line to me was so egregious because I was like, no, no, I've just made the realization myself.
Yeah,
You don't need to tell me.
yeah, yeah. So this is probably the weakest piece of the
Yeah.
writing that we've read in this, as far as from just a strength of prose area. This became very, very telly, very, very
It was it
non-immersive.
it felt a bit like the author had rushed.
Yeah,
In
and again,
yeah,
no interiority.
yeah, no
Like,
interiority.
oh my goodness, what am I feeling as I'm having this bloody mushroom that was just plucked from my friend's dead, rotting head and shoved into my mouth? Like, talk about ripe for interiority.
Also, I don't like the fact that Mathol knows who this is, so I
Yes.
should as well.
Yeah, that's another problem that I have on 91. And that would be done through interiority. So here's what we're talking about. On 91, the author has you, Mathel shouted. He was too enraged by the betrayal to say more. Okay. I don't know what the betrayal is. I'm not enraged. I don't know. I have no concept of what this means. Therefore, I can feel nothing.
Hmm.
The author knows who betrayed him. The author is feeling something at this moment. But good for the author. I'm glad you're enjoying the story because I have no context. So therefore, I feel nothing.
Yeah.
And this is
So
one of those head book, paper books. In the author's head
yeah.
book, it means something. On paper, it doesn't mean jack.
So I do like the fact, by the way, that we have a callback over here to the quote at the
Yeah.
top, to the flavor text. Like that was like this chapter has got a lot of plot promise. It's
Yes.
got a lot of good, strong character and plot work. It lacks interiority.
Yeah.
If you do not give me interiority, I am not going to engage enough. There is hints of interiority. Deepen it, strengthen it, dig for it, put it on the page.
Yeah.
I think
And
that's the
again,
biggest takeaway.
that's how we write. That's how we believe that good storytelling is done in limited. There is a faction out there that does believe different than us. Whichever way you believe is your call. We will judge you and, look down upon you if you believe the other way, but that is something you can probably live with.
Yeah. And I think that that is a good place on which to end this episode. And we will see you soon for another one.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in. This is Marie Mullaney, your co-host on this literary adventure. Our goal is to provide you with valuable insights and discussions on writing. If you believe in our mission, please like and subscribe our podcast. Sharing our episodes with your community not only helps us grow, but also contributes to a richer, more diverse conversation about storytelling. We appreciate your support. For a deeper understanding of the topics we've discussed, head over to Just in Time Worlds on YouTube. It is a treasure trove where fantasy meets history and science. Every Tuesday, you'll find new videos that delve into the intricacies of world building, drawing from our rich real-world history. Whether you're a writer, a role player, or just a fantasy enthusiast, Just-in-Time Worlds offers unique insights that will enrich your perspective. Check it out and join the journey of crafting incredible worlds.
If you are ready to take your writing to the next level and work with a group of highly motivated, dedicated writers who are all working to not only improve their writing, but improve your writing, plus you get to work with me on a weekly basis, then I'll encourage you to check out writersroom.us. This is a website that I have created that I really wish I had 30 years ago. It's everything a writer needs to become a better writer. Not only do we do weekly critique sessions, both from other members as well as me, we have daily writing sessions, I do monthly classes, Q&As, we have activities, I do all sorts of learning exercises, such as I do a quarterly writing prompt contest, and just tons and tons and tons of things. So if you're ready to get serious about your writing and you want to actually finish that novel and have a chance of it being published, then I encourage you to head on over to the Writer's Room and join me there. And as a special promotion for listeners of Releasing Your Inner Dragon, I'll go one step more. If you would like to get 50% off for 3 months, reach out to me. There's a million ways you can do that. You can do it through starvingwriterstudio.com, drakeu.com, any of my social medias such as LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, X, whatever. Reach out to me, say that you would like to check out the Writer's Room for 50% off, and I will send you a link that will allow you to do just that. So hopefully you're ready to start getting serious about writing, and I'll see you in the Writer's Room.